In Latin America, they're still watching.
We want
There's
the
a
show
mental
to
health
be
factor
true in
to
spirit.
this. How's everything going?
Everything is going okay. I feel like I'm happy where I am comedically. I'm in a good place, so I'm excited about that. I just hit my 10-year mark in comedy. You know, it's an exciting milestone.
Yeah, I remember when you were like 2 years into comedy.
Right. That's when I met you.
Yeah.
At the office in Chinatown.
When did you first feel like you connected with comedy? When you saw comedy and you were like,
I remember I was like 9 years old, and my brother and sister was watching Jamie Foxx's I Might Need Security. The way I saw them laughing, Jamie Foxx was killing in my living room, and like my brother was falling over laughing, and that's when I was like, this is like a cool art. But it wasn't for years later until I was like, oh, maybe I can do this.
you make me feel like I'm 116. For me, it was Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
I heard a bit that he did about his dog being high.
Yeah.
Him being high with his dog. And I don't know why, as a little kid, I thought it was so funny. And then I was like, wow, he just made me and my uncle laugh.
Yeah.
You know, it was just,
Right.
It was magic.
At that point, comedy was just funny. Like it wasn't, I didn't see it as something deeper. It's honestly not until recently that I've even looked at it as something deeper than that. Like for most, it's always been like, oh, it's funny. Like
Yeah,
you just be funny to be funny. It's funny because funny is fun. Not it's something deeper. It wasn't honestly till my mom got sick and then eventually passed. My life most of the time was just like such a good, fun time with my family. And then when she got sick, I still had to work. I was going through like the darkest time of my life, and then I still had to go on stage.
Last Comic Standing was that for me.
Yeah.
My grandmother had died in August from cancer. My uncle was murdered in a hate crime in October. And in November, I was getting ready for Last Comic Standing.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was really hard because I would go on stage, do the jokes, and then I would come off and just be completely depressed.
For
It
sure.
was just, I would just turn on. I think that there's a lot of pain involved with people who are funny. You either laugh or cry, right? You laugh to not cry. We just know how to mine it into a set, but it just becomes a function of what you want to do. Some people don't want to be stand-up comedians.
No, why would you want this?
I know. Exactly.
Do you think there's truth to all jokes?
I think people are expressing their truth. And I
Right.
think we have a hard time accepting the fact that somebody's truth, which may be problematic for us, is still their truth.
I feel what most comedians mean is we want the joke to be truth in spirit. If you're conveying a point of view, you want to make sure that's your point of view, that you're not like switching who you are to make this joke funny. I feel like the truth lies in that, but not like, no, every story I tell is 100% real, and it's like,
No, we get sued.
Right.
We be like, we talk about what is mean and what is not mean. What's mean to me is not mean to Anthony Jeselnik.
Right. Like, I agree with you on that too, where it's like, just because I said it's not funny, I don't think that highly of myself that I decide what funny is.
Right.
I just say, if I say it's not funny, I just mean to me. Like,
Yeah.
clearly there's a theater of people laughing at
That
this.
love
Clearly,
that love
right.
those jokes.
There's a space for that. So I hate when people try to be like, this is not funny. It's gonna be clear to you.
There's a mental health factor to this that nobody ever takes into consideration when
Right.
it comes to performers.
Right.
Like they don't ever think that we're people. We belong to them.
Yeah.
And we are there for their personal entertainment and enjoyment.
Yeah.
And they forget that we are also human beings.
I started doing therapy when my mom got sick. It just so happened I was starting therapy, and it just all happened at that same time. And I remember like speaking to my therapist, and he represents a lot of comedians, but he's mentioned that like when I'm in therapy, I don't talk a lot about comedy. Like I've been there 8 months and I haven't even mentioned comedy. I'm like, we have to get there, man. I still have to deal with it.
I'm still dealing with the day I was born.
Right. I'm dealing with year 1 through 5. Yeah. I mean, where do you think we're going?
I honestly think that as technologically advanced we are, I think in the future they're gonna look at us like this was our dark ages. Like I think we are coping with the speed of technology.
Yeah.
Our brains are trying to keep up with this stuff.
Right.
And it's really hard on mental health. Also, we have collective trauma.
Yes.
You think comedy is bad? Try doing comedy on Zoom during a pandemic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we had to make people laugh while watching people die every day.
For sure.
And that is taxing on the soul.
I think the next step is for us to just be able to tell our story where it doesn't have to be,
Yeah, it's just people who happen to be Afro-Latino.
Right. Because people, they'll ask like, oh, but we want the Afro-Latino perspective. And it's like, yeah, I'm Afro-Latino. This is my perspective. Like everything I say is through those lens. I don't take these glasses off to write this show.
But you know, the burden that I felt when I did my special was because I leaned into it, right?
Yeah.
Not in the stand-up. Like the stand-up, of course, there was some of it in there, but I leaned into it with the documentary. I wanted to show people in the Dominican Republic where you didn't see little kids begging for money.
Right.
I had to risk, or not even risk because I don't care, but I know people were like, oh, look, she really went into the Dominican Puerto Rican thing, right? But it's because we have a right to exist in this space. Nobody ever says, oh, here we go, March 17th, there go the Irish people with their green. But they do it to us.
Do you think there's like a time when the joke should stop?
See, the thing is that I don't police other comedians, or I don't police other people's funny, because I talk a lot about race. And I don't hate anybody. I mean, I hate everybody.
Yeah,
you know,
equally.
But exactly, because most of us do, right?
Right.
We're there to provoke, and I think that sitting around saying, "Oh, you went too far," is trouble. I think it's trouble because then everybody has a different line. And then we're not able to speak. But then the president of the United States can say, hey, grab them by the, But we are the ones that are being told.
Right.
Comedians.
I agree with that. It's like two perspectives. When I'm not going to police your comedy, but, there are consequences to the things you say. So if you're going to say it, it better be super funny. Even if it is super funny, you're going to have to deal with the consequences.
Or you better know how to box.
Right, you know what I mean?
Like,
Latin comedy before, Latino comedy before was LA. It was George Lopez. It was the Mexican comics from LA. But this like new East Coast of darker complexion comedy is kind of at the front of it.
I've always felt that Latinx comedy is behind because in Latin America they're still watching shows that are inappropriate, like the things that are funny can be very problematic here. I think that we are making strides with different types of voices because we're not a monolith, and now people are understanding that everybody doesn't have that experience.
Turn off the distractions
and listen with compassion, empathy, and love.